My name is Leo Vance, and for most of my 52 years, I've found more comfort in the company of animals than people. I live and work at a small wildlife sanctuary tucked away in the blue-tinted mountains just outside of Asheville, North Carolina. My world is one of quiet patience. It's the feeling of a hawk's talons gently gripping my gloved arm, the rustle of leaves as a rehabilitated fox is released back into the wild, the low hum of the forest at dawn. I'm not a big man, maybe 5'6" if I stand up straight, and I've always believed that true strength isn't about how much noise you make, but about how much you can heal. People are loud, complicated, and often cruel for reasons I can't understand. Animals are simple. They fight for survival, not for ego. I prefer simple. My life was a calm, predictable rhythm of feeding schedules, mending broken wings, and the deep, satisfying peace of knowing I was putting a little bit of good back into a world that often felt like it was tearing itself apart. That peace, however, was about to be shattered. It started on a Tuesday morning, one of those crisp autumn days where the air smells like wood smoke and damp earth. My old pickup truck was running on fumes, so I pulled into a gas station on my way to work. It was mostly empty, just a few cars scattered around. I saw an open pump and slowed down, clicking on my turn signal out of pure habit. Just as I was about to turn in, a blur of polished black metal screamed past me. A brand new Camaro, loud and obnoxious, swerved right in front of me, stealing the spot I was heading for. The car looked like it was trying to swallow the sun, all aggressive angles and an engine that growled with impatience. The driver's side door flew open and out stepped a kid who couldn't have been older than 20. He was thin, dressed head to toe in black tight jeans, a band t-shirt, a leather jacket despite the mild morning, and a mane of long, jet black hair that looked like a wig from a Halloween store. He strutted with the kind of unearned confidence that only youth can provide, completely ignoring me as he started fumbling with the gas cap. I wasn't angry, not at first. Mostly, I was just tired. This was the kind of pointless rudeness I spent my life trying to avoid. But something about his total lack of awareness, his assumption that he was the only person in the world, got under my skin. I rolled down my window. The squeak of the old crank handle sounded loud in the quiet morning. "Hey," I called out, my voice calm. I was just about to pull in there. The kid looked over at me, a smirk playing on his lips. He sized up my dusty, dented truck, then looked at me with my flannel shirt and worn-out jeans. "Too bad, old man," he sneered, his voice dripping with condescension. "You're too slow." Old man, the words hit me harder than a punch. It wasn't just about my age, it was a dismissal of my entire way of life. Slow, patient, careful. The very things I valued he used as an insult. In his world, my world was worthless. And that, I realized, was a problem I couldn't just drive away from. A new kind of quiet fell over me, but this wasn't the peaceful quiet of the sanctuary. It was the heavy, buzzing silence before a storm. I turned off the ignition, the truck groaning to a stop, and I opened my door. For a moment, I thought I could still handle this the Leo Vance way. I would talk to him. I would be the reasonable adult and make him understand the simple courtesy he had broken. I walked over, my boots crunching on the grimy concrete. He was still smirking, enjoying the show. I started, keeping my voice level. "There's no need for that, you just have to be aware of other people." He laughed, a short, ugly bark. "Or what, you gonna lecture me to death, Grandpa?" He took a step toward me, puffing out his chest. "You need to get back in your rust bucket and move on before you get hurt." Then he did something that changed everything. He shoved me. It wasn't a hard shove, just a quick, dismissive push to my chest with the palm of his hand. But it was the contact. The violation. In that instant, all my years of practice, calm, of breathing through frustration, of believing in the gentle path, evaporated. It was like a dam breaking inside my head. The world narrowed until the only thing I could see was his smug, sneering face. The problem wasn't a stolen gas pump anymore. The problem was him. My initial attempt to solve this with words, with reason, had failed spectacularly. It had only made him more aggressive, more certain of his power over me. I felt a tremor start in my hands, a low hum of rage I hadn't felt in decades. I felt small, disrespected, and utterly powerless. And I knew with a terrifying certainty that I was not going to feel that way for 1 second longer. The low point wasn't his shove, it was the realization that the man I thought I was, the calm and gentle caretaker, was gone. Someone else was looking out of my eyes now, and he was not interested in talking. Something inside me that had been dormant for 30 years woke up with a roar. The calm, patient man who mended wings was gone. What was left was something raw and primal. The buzzing in my ears grew louder, and a red haze seemed to bleed into the edges of my vision. I didn't think, I didn't plan, I acted. My left hand shot out and grabbed the front of his leather jacket, bunching the material in my fist. His smirk vanished, replaced by a flash of surprise. He was taller than me, but he was wiry, all posture and no substance. I, on the other hand, spend my days lifting 100-pound bags of feed and wrestling with injured deer. He was a sapling in a storm. I yanked him forward off balance, and my right fist connected with his jaw. The crack of the impact was sickeningly loud. It wasn't a movie punch, it was messy and brutal. His head snapped to the side, and his eyes went wide with shock and pain. He stumbled backward, tripping over his own feet, and landed hard on the concrete. The fight, if you could even call it that, was already over. He just didn't know it yet. He scrambled up, his bravado replaced with genuine fear. "What the hell is wrong with you?" he shrieked, his voice cracking. He didn't try to fight back. He just saw the look in my eyes and knew he had made a terrible mistake. The bully was gone, all that was left was a scared kid, and that made me even angrier. I stalked forward as he crab-walked backward, his black boots scraping against the ground. "You wanted to be fast," I snarled. The voice coming out of me was gravelly and foreign. "Let's see how fast you are now." I kicked his leg, not hard enough to break it, but hard enough to send a jolt of pain through him. He yelped. He started to panic, desperately trying to get away. He was now on the ground, trying to crawl under his big, shiny Camaro, the very symbol of his arrogance, now his only hope for shelter. He was crying, not just a few tears, but full-on gut-wrenching sobs. He was a child who had finally met a consequence he couldn't talk his way out of. As he was getting kicked in the ribs, he was screaming about how sorry he was, blubbering apologies between gasps for air. And then, just as suddenly as the rage had come, it was gone. The sound of his crying cut through the red haze. It sounded like a wounded animal. I stopped, my foot raised for another kick. I looked down at this weeping mess of a boy curled up under his car, and I didn't see a monster. I just saw a pathetic, frightened kid who had learned a hard lesson. The fury drained out of me, leaving me feeling hollow and shaky. I looked at my own hands, my knuckles scraped and bleeding. These were the same hands that could calm a frightened owl, the same hands that stitched a wound on a fawn. What had I just done? I took a deep, shuddering breath. The buzzing in my ears faded and the world came back into focus. The smell of gasoline, the distant sound of traffic, the boy's ragged sobs. I gave him one last, gentle nudge with the toe of my boot just to get his attention. He flinched, expecting another blow. I leaned down slightly. "That's cool," I said, my voice returning to its normal, quiet tone. "You got here first, you keep filling up." I turned my back on him without another word, walked back to my old truck and got in. I started the engine, pulled out of the station, and drove away like it was just another Tuesday morning. I didn't look back. The rest of the drive to the sanctuary was quiet. I drove with both hands on the wheel, watching the familiar mountains grow closer. But everything felt different. The world outside was the same, but the world inside me had been permanently altered. I had discovered a switch within myself I never knew existed, a capacity for violence that was both terrifying and, in a dark and twisted way, satisfying. When I got back to my little corner of the world, the animals greeted me as they always did. A barred owl hooted softly from its enclosure. The squirrels chattered in the trees. I went about my chores, my movements automatic. But as I held a bird with a splinted wing, feeling its tiny, frantic heartbeat against my palm, I understood something new. I had always seen the world as predator and prey. I had always seen myself as a protector of the prey. But that morning at a gas station, I learned that the predator lives inside me too. It's quiet and it's patient, but it's there. And I know now it doesn't take much to let it out. The world isn't as simple as I thought, and maybe neither.